North Korea is a bit of a black box, right? It's got this rogue nuclear program. It's under heavy international sanctions. There's gulags, there's famines. The people appear to worship this deified kid of a national leader. To understand why that is, you really have to go back to 1910 when Japan first colonized Korea. And Japan at the time was its own super crazy fascist imperial state, which Americans know all about because we fought a war with them. Japan wanted to convince Koreans that they were a subset of the Japanese race and to rally them to the imperial cause. And then Japan collapsed in 1945, the North came under Soviet occupation, but the ideology stayed there. So we think of North Korea as like this last holdover of Soviet-style communism, but actually it's the last holdover of Japanese fascism. And you still see that today. North Koreans are told that they are the purest race on earth and that their superiority means that they need a strong leader to protect them from the outside world. And then they have this leader who's kind of deified because he's a holdover from the Japanese emperor who was actually, a quasi-religious figure. So then in 1991, the Soviet Union collapses. Stopped giving North Korea all these subsidies, and the North Korean government needed to find a new way to keep its citizens' support because they were so poor that they could not feed their own people, and 1 in 10 North Koreans starved to death. So that's when Kim Jong-il, who was the leader at the time, came up with the Songun policy, military first, which is this big lie they tell the country that they're constantly at this low-boil war with the entire outside world, especially the American imperialist dogs, so you have to give up everything towards the military cause. It's really effective. Everybody buys into it. There's studies that show that even North Koreans who leave the country and see how poor North Korea is, most of them actually come back willingly. When Kim Jong-il died, there were millions of North Koreans crying in the street, and even defectors say that was more real than fake, which is kind of amazing given that the country is really poor and 1% of its population lives in prison camps. And then one effect of this that works really well in the North Korean government's favor is that this militarism also distracts the US and the rest of the outside world. So we're so worried about their nuclear program and their crazy attacks on South Korea that we actually don't bother that much with the way they treat their own people who are the real victims of the North Korean system.
North Korea, a country notorious for its nuclear weapons and dictator. But what really lies behind this name? Unified during the Silla dynasty in 668 AD, North and South Korea were not always separated, not until the Second World War, when the USSR had control over the North and the US seized the South. Both sides placed leaders over all of Korea, and tensions rose. Both believed they were the rightful ruler. The later Korean War consisted of North Korean leader Kim Il-sung trying to grasp power over Korea by force. The efforts failed, and both sides signed the armistice to end major hostilities in 1953. After this, North Korea gradually evolved into a Stalinist state and remains that way to this day. Now, tensions rise again, with North Korea being in possession of over 15 nuclear weapons and 1,000 ballistic missiles. This is a danger that requires awareness because it endangers not only South Korea, but the world. North Korea has been a nation that caused several conflicts and panics among the Asia-Pacific. Instead of focusing on the quality of citizens' lives and the economy of the country, North Korea chooses only to focus on its military. Throughout these past years, Pyongyang has been pursuing nuclear weapons tests. Despite military threats from the United States, they now possess 10 to 20 nuclear weapons and around 1,000 ballistic missiles, and a satellite in space with a long-range rocket. Fortunately, none of their nuclear tests have been fully successful, and evidence suggests their rockets lack accuracy in long-range combats. However, they still pose a threat to the neighbors living around them. North Korea recently attacked a South Korean vessel in the Yellow Sea, killing 39 of the crew members, and launched an artillery attack onto South Korean land, killing 2 Marines and 2 civilians. There are many potential solutions to this issue, although many are difficult to carry out. Because North Korea is, in fact, a member of the UN should be urged to take action toward these threats. This may include action taken according to Chapter 7, Article 42 of the UN Charter, that when acts of aggression are expressed and the measures taken in Article 41 are inadequate, they may take action by air, sea, or land to maintain peace. These measures may go as far as to include demonstrations and blockades. Other than this, they should try to publicly identify all banks and businesses involved with North Korea suspected of violating UN resolutions. As students, however, we can try to raise awareness about the dangers of nuclear warfare to the best of our abilities and help people understand that the consequences do affect them, no matter how far away it may seem.